Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wellness Wednesday. I am so thrilled to have my good friend Astrid here today, who is going to share a wonderful experience and insight into the superfood called quinoa. So I think it's extra fun. Today is the day that we're recording is known as Peru's Independence Day. So Astrid, first of all, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Krista.
Can you share a little bit about what is Peru's Independence Day all about?
Yes, so it's we say Feliz 28, it's like happy 4th, but it's Feliz 28 because it's 28, 20. So we got independence from Spain, like most of South American countries. And it's just a day full of celebration, parades, and lots of food because that's what that's Peru's love language is the food. We're very proud of our food, and dancing. So it's a very happy day for Peruvians today. So Feliz 28 for those who listen that might be a little bit in tune with what's happening on that side of the world.
Love it. Is there a particular food that is always served, like by families or at restaurants today?
Oh my goodness. The thing with Peru's food is that there's so many that it's hard to pick one. But of course we have the traditional ceviche and we have lomo saltado and arroz con pollo. It's like we have a feast. We have such fusion of foods. We have... Peru is a very rich country in terms of resources. We have the coast, we have the mountains, we have the jungle, and we had so much immigration in the last century. So we have a lot of fusion with European foods, Asian, a little bit of everything. So it's really literally a feast of colors and flavors.
Well, I love fusion food.
Yeah. And the good side of Peru's food is that we serve like good portions, not the
You're not shy about your portions.
We're not, yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Well, I would love for you to share with those listening a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So yeah, my name is Astrid. I'm very happy to be here, Krista. So thank you so much for inviting me. I'm a wife of it's going to be 22 years. I have 3 kids, all different age ranges and stages. So a 21-year-old, 13-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And born and raised in Peru, but moved to the States 13 years ago. So yeah, it's been more than a decade here. So yeah. That's me in a nutshell.
So tell us where you lived in Peru. And I don't know much about the geography other than Lima's the capital. It's a very busy city, so where are you from?
Very busy, and that's where I'm from. I'm from Lima, from the capital.
Okay.
Peru is a very centralized country, so most of the population live in Lima. We have like 30 million people in Lima, so it's a huge city.
Incredible.
Yes. Not the prettiest. Peru has beautiful places, locations, lots of nature, but Lima is just a big city. Okay. So that's where I'm from. Lived there for 26 years until I moved to the States. But yeah, one of the good things about Lima is that you eat very well. Again, that's Peruvians love language. That's when we get together, we talk about food. Food is always involved. So yeah, but I was born in the 80s, so it was a very challenging time in Peru because we lived through terrorism. So that was challenging back in the days, but then in the 90s it kind of settled down a little bit, and so that's where I think Peru's food really exploded. It got more, and it got out there. So yeah, it got more known in the world.
So I didn't realize that history about Peru. So I was in middle school and high school in the 80s, so I was only just thinking about me and in my little bubble. So I definitely wasn't looking out at the world or listening to news or anything. So that must have been a really scary time to
Yeah,
live
I
through.
mean, I think for us kids, like I always, with my husband, we talk about this. Like we didn't really see it as very scary, though bombs were exploding blocks away from our homes, and but I guess when you grow with that, it's like you don't realize, you
That
know,
was just life.
the yeah, it was just, yeah. So we would be without power for a few days, and yeah, but it was short-lived. It
Okay.
doesn't sound right to say that, but it was kind
Okay.
of short-lived for us in the city because it lasted like a year or so. But the people
Okay.
in the mountain really had it really, really
Oh,
rough.
okay.
Yeah. So, it was interesting to live in those days. I definitely got prepared us. I got prepared us through those times.
I suppose, yeah, not having electricity for a few days, you have to
Yep.
think ahead. What are you going to do for food?
That is something that Peruvians are very resourceful and very creative. Like, and we try to make humor, out of those tragedies in a way.
Before we get into the cooking, I would love to know how far were you away from the mountains?
Yeah, quite far. Like
Oh, is it?
it's,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I would say, I mean, there's smaller mountains closer to
Okay.
Lima. Like if you really want to go to the countryside, let's say, it will be an hour,
Okay.
drive. But then if you want to go like to the Andes, like
Yes.
the real
The
mountains
big
for us,
mountains.
the
Yes.
huge mountains, it will be like probably, by car, 6, 8 hours,
Okay. So
something
that
like that. A 2 hour flight though, but by car, definitely.
okay. Well, that's fun. It sounds beautiful. I've looked at lots of pictures, and of course, I have known about the Andes Mountains. And Machu Picchu also is in Peru, correct?
Yes, and
Okay.
that is one of our, yeah,
That's what.
pride. It's one of the seven wonders, and that's what we kids do in 12. In our senior year, at least back in my days. That was our prom trip to Cusco. So it was a really, yeah,
It's a big deal.
very big deal, very
So,
very beautiful.
well, why don't we dive in and can you share with everyone what your cooking journey was like growing up?
Yeah, that's funny that you asked because I didn't really have much cooking experience growing up. One of the things that many Peruvians have, I think more accessible even now, it's we always have help at home, which is a blessing. I miss that for sure, but um, so growing up, I didn't really have much need to learn to cook. Um, until I moved to the States. When I found out that I had to move to the States, and I was, almost 30 years old, I was 26 years old. Um, I asked, my our help at home, which she was part of the family all the
Yes.
time. That's you grow with them, so it's part of your family. They're so close to us in many many ways that so I was like, please, I need you to teach me the basics, from basics to more elaborate. So I sat down with her. I was pregnant with my second one, and I just took notes, like very detailed notes, even how to grab the knife, because it's an art, when you dice onions, it's an art how they
Yes, it
do it
is.
and how so it sounds very basic, but that's what I did. I took notes, and I carry those notes with me. Even though they're in my email inbox, but that's there all the time. All my favorite recipes. And when I moved to the States, um, of course, in Peru, one of the beautiful things about it is that you have everything is fresh, so you can walk to your neighborhood's little market, and you get fresh fruit, fresh, veggies, everything. And if you go a little farther, you get the fresh catch of the day, because Lima is by the ocean, so we have a big port. So you can literally have the fresh catch, right? That same day.
Amazing.
So I was used to doing everything from scratch, dicing onions, dicing tomatoes. So my first meals here cooking in the States, I try to do that. And, my friends and really, close people are always like, you don't need to be like dicing tomatoes, right? Or dicing onions because everything here is in a can. So I was like, oh, that really reduces my cooking time a lot. But so I did that for a while, but now I'm like, no, I'm going back to basics. I really enjoy dicing stuff and cutting and just smelling the freshness of the food and seeing the colors. It's an
So
experience.
much more flavor too when you're having fresh.
Yes, fresh, healthier, more flavor. So yeah, again, it's just an experience.
What a wonderful opportunity to have fresh produce around the corner.
Yes.
I live in Minnesota. We don't have that opportunity. In the summer we have farmers markets, but we don't have that fresh produce.
I miss
very
that for
out.
sure. And the variety. I mean, you have all the fruits from the jungle. You have, I mean, Peru has I believe it's like 7,000 different types of potatoes.
No
Uh,
way. I had
yes.
no idea there was that many
Yes.
potatoes.
So the potatoes actually originated in Peru and they were taken to Europe.
Okay,
Yes.
my mind is blown. I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. So again, in resources, Peru, like natural resources, Peru has always been very rich. Now, what humans do with those resources is a
That's
different
so true.
story, right?
Yes.
But God really blessed our country with rich soil and just yeah, so very fresh food, right?
Well, and one of those great resources is quinoa,
Yes.
which I had to do just a tiny bit of research. I know that you know way more than I do. I found out that quinoa is considered a pseudo cereal,
Yeah.
and that it is a seed that acts like a grain, and it's considered a superfood. And I love that it's gluten free,
Yes.
and it contains more protein, vitamins, minerals, and fiber than a typical grain. Like, wow,
Exactly.
just
It
a,
is.
a superfood.
It is so rich in everything, like in vitamins, minerals. I mean, and like you said, it really acts like a protein, gluten free, which is a great option for many
So
nowadays.
many.
But the funny thing is that I did not grow up eating quinoa. That's the irony. We
Yes,
had, again, we had that amazing, rich resource there, and we didn't know about it. And except for the people who lived in the mountains, it was considered more kind of low income kind of food because they had it right there. So, but for the people in the city, it was an unknown food almost. And if we had it, it was given to the chickens
Oh
to
my.
eat. So I
I
think it got more discovered in the late 80s, early 90s,
okay.
that I remember growing up seeing some, cereal bars, like,
Okay.
quinoa cereal bars. Um, but that was it. Like, it was kind of a weird thing. So now it's funny to see the whole.
It's so expensive in the grocery stores because people know what a good superfood it is, so therefore the
Yes,
price goes up.
yes,
So
yes.
you had mentioned this to me off screen, talking about how it was really like a mountain food. And so that got me thinking about, in America, we use a lot of flour, and I don't know how many decades ago it was, but white flour was considered the premium flour, and it was like the wealthy would eat it,
Yeah.
and the poor people would have the brown flour, the whole grain flour. So I kind of feel like that's God's little wink of protection and his provision for those that didn't have as much money. So like God's like I'm
Yes.
taking care of those less fortunate with these really amazing foods that no one else knows that it's so healthy.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It's just that faithfulness, right? That he's taking care of us in the most funny, not ironic ways for sure. Yeah, it's another thing. It's funny. It's like now an avocado toast. I grew up like the most common breakfast for us was pan con palta. Like bread with avocado.
Okay.
We
Like
had that like
for breakfast?
for breakfast, for whatever it was. We would just open a bun, a French bun, and put the avocado there and put some salt, and that would be like our really usual weekly, at least. I don't know if daily, but that would be so accessible. And now even in Peru, you go to a restaurant and they're giving you avocado toast for so expensive, when we're like, come on,
Because it's trendy now.
it's trendy now, and we've been having it for decades. So it's just funny how we do things.
You got to get ahead of the trend when they're less expensive.
Yes, for sure.
So you said you didn't eat it growing up, that it was like chicken food. So what would be a typical grain for you growing up?
Rice.
Okay.
Rice, yeah. Most of I would say the majority of our dishes have rice in it. And if we could add the potato in there too. So yeah, rice, corn as well. Our corn is different from American corn. Like we have big grains.
Is it different, varied in colors?
In colors, it's not sweet. So
Interesting.
yeah, it's really good. It's really good. So that's what we put in our ceviche. We put it with the rice. I mean, we just blend it all, and it's very, lots
all
of
the freshness.
flavor. So, but that's one of the nice things about the quinoa, that since it doesn't have a very particular flavor, you can really use quinoa for everything. And one of the things that Peruvians do nowadays is they replace, just to be a little bit more healthier, we replace the rice with quinoa, because the quinoa just absorbs all the different spices and flavors that we use, and just like kind of like it's a wonderful replacement for rice. Although Peruvians, we still love rice. That's part of our.
Do you blend quinoa and rice together ever?
Not regularly, no.
Okay.
It will be more of a replacement.
There's a prepackaged item that I have purchased that has the two blended, so that's just must be an American.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it too, but for me it will be like too much grain.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, unless you have I would say a healthier option of rice too. Like we would just have white rice. Like we would buy the white rice, not
less expensive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when did you start cooking quinoa for your family?
It was here in the States, which is funny.
That is funny.
Well, because we didn't, besides those, maybe the energy bars or cereals in Peru growing up, we really didn't. It started becoming a thing when I moved to the States.
Okay.
And ironically, at least for me, it was more accessible in the States than in Peru. Just not necessarily money-wise, like in terms of costs, but just you see it here everywhere now, right? And so it was, it was interesting that I started cooking, and there's so many recipes now. So when I saw, I get my quinoa from Costco or any store, nothing fancy, because I know they can make it seem fancy, and I know there's so many different types of quinoa and colors and all that, but since I kind of know that it's all really good, I don't need to go very fancy with the quinoa.
So I learned that there were 1,800 varieties of quinoa. So even more than the potatoes, which I thought, was 700 potatoes. That's a lot.
7,000.
Oh, 7,000. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Okay. 7,000. So Is there a particular quinoa that your family likes? Because I'm sure we don't get that many varieties coming to the United States.
Yeah,
But
and I don't think even in Lima they get much variety
okay,
either. I particularly like to combine the colors just because it's, looks
it's beautiful.
prettier and it's beautiful and um, but I usually get just the regular one, the organic
Okay,
one, plain one. I have,
awesome.
like I said, I have different ages in my kids, so
Yes,
I cannot get as creative as I wish I could with the quinoa yet because of my little one.
yes. Maybe she'll grow to love it.
Yes, hopefully, hopefully. My middle son, he has always been the pickiest. Is that how you say it? The
Picky. Is
picky,
that what you
yeah.
mean? Yeah. Okay.
He always it was hard for him to eat, but he always loved quinoa. So
Okay.
I don't know.
There's hope.
There's hope. Yes.
Can you share with us how you prepare quinoa?
Yeah, so I've learned that the easiest way for me, because it's really like a rice, right? So if you have a rice maker, you know, an electrical rice
I do.
maker,
Yes.
use the quinoa as you
Same
would,
thing.
cook the quinoa as you would cook the rice. That's what works for me. That way I don't need to be worrying, about steering or if it gets stuck in if it sticks to the saucepan. So just put it right there as if it was rice.
Okay.
And if
So,
you spice it up, you can put garlic or olive oil, avocado oil, whatever you use.
do you usually use water or a different liquid?
Water.
Okay.
Yes. Unless the recipe, says otherwise. Because one of the things that quinoa can also be used as a risotto. So,
Oh, I've never done that
yes.
before.
Yes. So,
Okay, so I'm
if the
fascinated.
risotto recipe,
Yes.
calls for wine or another, mushrooms or something, you just do that.
Okay, I'm going to be looking up that recipe. How fun.
Yeah.
I love a good risotto. That never crossed my mind that, that quinoa
It's
can be
very,
used for.
yeah, quinoa is very versatile. Again, it doesn't have a very strong flavor, so it really absorbs anything that you put there. But one tip would be to always wash it. The packages that you buy, they always say it's washed, but I would just wash it because there's a little bit of a bitterness
Right, I've
sometimes in
noticed that.
the grain. So if you wash it, that helps.
So I would love a little advice here. So my very first time of making quinoa was years ago. And so I knew I had to rinse it. And
Mhm.
the strainer that I used to rinse it, it was frustrating for me. Like the quinoa got stuck in the strainer. It was the wrong size holes that I used, and I thought, boy, this is a mess. Is is there a trick to washing the quinoa?
It's funny that you say it because I always have kind of an internal. I laugh when no, I don't laugh. It's actually get very frustrated with quinoa
Okay.
because it almost feels like it has a life of its own.
Yes.
They just jump all over, like it's
Exactly.
always with me. So I have to be like, all my senses have to be with the quinoa when, pouring it or washing it. So I don't have a particular tip necessarily for washing it. Even if it's, with smaller,
Yeah. It
but unfortunately, I don't know.
it's fun. Okay, so I'm not alone in my
We're not at
frustrations.
home. Yes, no, yeah, my quinoa always ends up on the floor. It's just like, why? It's just like almost if it's jumping on its own, trying to escape the
Yes.
the stove.
I think I'm going to try my fine sieve. Is that what it's called? All of a sudden I forgot. My fine mesh strainer.
Yeah, that would be a great idea.
It's
Yes,
massive and it's what I use when I make bone broth.
yes,
But I think I will be less frustrated because the holes are so
it's
small.
almost exactly. Yes, yes, that's actually a great idea. Yeah, I need one of those.
But I got that at IKEA actually for like, I don't know, $3. It was
Yeah, yeah.
the best deal ever.
I'm sure. Yeah, you could do so much with that. Yeah.
Have you ever frozen quinoa?
I have not, but I've heard that since, it really grows in very high cold altitudes. I
Okay,
think, I've heard that it really
so it
holds
should be
everything
okay.
that needs, yeah, it should be okay. Yeah. I've seen, I mean, actually, just because I knew I was going to talk to you, I found so many great ideas for quinoa that I didn't know.
Yes, please
They
share.
can do like, because it replaces cereal as well. I love oatmeal, but they say that it's really, replaces oatmeal. You can do energy bars like as if it was granola, like with almonds, and it's just you can use it for every, like, as a breakfast, as a snack, lunch, dinner. You can do breads with it. And both of us, we like
Yes,
making bread,
we
so
do.
there's so many ways you can use quinoa. Burgers, that I tried
Okay.
that once, like with beans and burgers, instead of having like a meat burger, quinoa burgers. So it's just
Did you like it?
I did. I
Okay,
did like it. I might share that with you too.
that would be
Um,
great.
yeah, but they
I'll
people
put
put
that in
it
the
like,
show notes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they people put it like in yogurts for breakfast. So many ways. My favorite way is, or my one of my favorite ways, and one of my most common ways of using quinoa is in the salad. I love a salad with quinoa.
So, do you have it cooked when you put it in the
Yes.
salad? Okay, I love that. Do you have certain flavors that you add to the quinoa when you're putting in their salads?
Yeah, well, I usually like a fresh, not creamy salad. I like more like Greek salad, or or with olive oil, or lime. So, I really combine whatever I have there. So lettuce, if I have a little bit of onions, and tomatoes, feta cheese, I think it goes really well. So if something like that
Nice.
fresh, but really whatever you have
Nice.
works well, because you're just adding the protein to your salad, and any dressing, it will capture it.
Sounds so good. And I'm just reminiscent of the last salad I had at a restaurant had quinoa on it,
Oh,
and it was
yeah.
delicious. And it was like a Greek salad with olives in it, and
I think that's my favorite one, especially because it's hard for me to get the amount of protein that I know I need. So, yeah, quinoa does that for me for sure. It
awesome.
really helps. It really, really helps.
Well, can you please tell us what your favorite family recipe is?
Yeah, so as Peruvians, um, we try to, if we're going to use the quinoa, we try mainly to use it in the Peruvian recipes. Like I've shared with you before, the arroz chaufa, which is kind of an Asian fusion. It's
It's
like
delicious.
a fried rice, right? So instead of using the rice, we use the quinoa. But you can really replace any Peruvian dish that has the rice with the quinoa. So arroz con pollo, which is it's a green rice with chicken that has corn and beans and culantro. So it's not cilantro. Oh, that's something that you should add to your salad. That's cilantro. That's what I do always.
Yes.
Now that I
Cilantro. I love the good
remember,
cilantro. Yeah. Yes.
cilantro.
So it's so fresh.
It is so fresh. But anyway, this green rice has culantro, which is different. I don't know.
Okay. I've not
I
heard of
don't,
that.
I don't know. You can actually find it. At least I find it here in the grocery store. It's a little
Okay.
more, but it's a long leaf. It's
Is it from the
green.
cilantro family?
I think so.
Okay.
Is colander going to be colander? I'm not sure.
Oh, yes. Okay. I feel like
Maybe.
that's like part of the cilantro family.
Yes, I think it is, but
I'm
it's a
pretty sure.
little stronger in flavor.
Okay.
So we kind of like um, the word just left. Like when you put it in the blender, we blend it and
Okay.
we do the rice with that, like with the our Peruvian. The base of all of our Peruvian dishes is onion, diced onions, and garlic, with oil, salt, and we have this like ají, which is kind of a chili, not the same chili pepper of Mexico, but it's a different type. We have a lot of variety of that too. It just brings the flavor.
Is there heat with those peppers?
It can if you
Okay,
want.
but
So
not always.
you really, if you get the actual pepper, you just remove the seeds if you want.
Okay.
But that's what we use for like most of our. And the good thing, Krista, that I just found out is that Amazon. Not that I'm promoting any, but I can now find those things in Amazon. So I'm a happy camper because
It's exciting.
I can find those ingredients here. So, but going back to your question, really, our favorite family recipe, besides the salad, in terms of quinoa, right? We're talking
Yes.
quinoa, will be that, just replacing the rice with in our Peruvian dishes. But also, there's this really good recipe that I shared with you. It's stuffed peppers.
Yes, looks so good. I know that my family would love that.
Yes, and it
So
combines
tell us a little bit
beans.
about that recipe.
Yes, I found it on Pinterest like 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been there for a while, but you combine the quinoa, cooked quinoa with corn and beans, a little bit of tomato paste or sauce, whatever you want,
Okay.
and onions, of course, all that, but you kind of like do like a little stir fry, and then you just put it on the peppers, different color peppers, sweet peppers, I mean,
Okay.
and cheese on top.
What type of cheese?
You can mix the cheddar and mozzarella or whatever you
Okay.
really want.
Nice.
So it has kind of a Mexican fusion to it. I'm not sure exactly, but you put all that in the oven, and I'll share the recipe. But it's really good. It's really, really good. And even my little ones, if they won't eat the peppers, they just really like. Sometimes I do it without the peppers,
Okay.
just because more kid friendly. So it's almost like as if it was rice with all these things.
Nice.
And it's beautiful because it has all the colors.
Yes.
The colors. Very easy.
Yes, it's vibrant.
Vibrant. Exactly. And colors and flavors. So that's my go-to.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm curious, what is your family's favorite recipe that doesn't have quinoa?
Yes. Well, my husband loves preparing the ceviche, which I don't know if you've heard about. That's like and it's different from our other country's ceviche. Like,
Okay, well tell us
yes.
how yours is different and what you do with yours.
Well, I don't exactly know how the other countries do it, but
Okay.
I've seen like mango in them and all that. But for us, it's really, it's just a raw fish cooked in lime.
Yes.
So when
What type of fish do you use?
anything that is fresh. Usually, like we would do like maybe flounder. It really depends on what we have. So it's really, yeah, anything that is fresh and yeah, you can just dice it or cut it.
Oh,
Just yeah. So really, you just cut the fish with onions. And then you do, and it cooks with lime. But then there's this we call it tiger's milk.
okay. I don't know what that is.
I know it sounds very weird, but it's really almost like a mix of, you blend lemon juice or lime juice.
Okay.
In Peru we have the opposite. Like you guys, the green, is it lime?
Yes.
Okay, for us it's lemon, so that's why I always get confused.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
We use lime. That's the one that we use. So we blend, lime juice with salt and a couple of cubes of fish and garlic, and like we kind of do this. It almost is like a juice. It's so rich in flavor. So when people go out and party the next day, they drink that, and it says that it brings you back to life because it's like woo power, But that's our ceviche. That's like the base of our ceviche. That's where the fish, it cooks in that.
So it sounds so fresh. So I have had ceviche only once. I mean, as much of a foodie as I am, my mind just has a hard time looking at the raw fish. But I know it's cooked, and I know it's well cooked in the lime juice,
Yeah,
but
no,
it's harder for me.
I hear you. Like I can't do like big chunks. It has for me. I prefer there's a variation, a different dish. It's not really different, but that is called tiradito, which is the same base, but like you dice the fish in,
Nice. Okay.
you know,
Little
smaller,
little bites. Okay.
thinner, and then no onions.
Interesting.
So yeah, so I prefer sometimes that, and it always comes with sweet potato and corn. It's really yummy.
It
But
sounds
anyway,
amazing.
that's my hubby's favorite, and I love doing the the green rice that I told you about, and the fried rice that I also told you about.
Yes,
Those are
which I've
very
tried. I've
yes.
tried your fried rice. It is amazing. My family loves it.
Oh, I'm so glad. Those are, being here in the United States, those are easy go-tos. We have so many. I can give you a whole list of favorite Peruvian dishes, but those are the ones that I can do almost on a weekly basis. You know, yeah.
Well, I love to ask all of my guests if you have a beautiful body tip to share.
You know, I was wondering about this. I'm not, ironically, my grandmother and my mom, they were all into beauty all the time. So my grandmother always used to teach me I had to comb my hair like 20 something times. I'm very simple. I don't do those things. But for me, my beauty tip, I would think, is drink a lot of water
That's good.
and just laugh. Like, try as much as you can to bring back that joy. One of the things my grandmother used to tell me is like, don't smile that much, because since I was a little girl, I would do this and you will see all the wrinkles, and you can see them. I mean, I think I was born with wrinkles. But you know what? God has taught me, no, smile. Smile
The
doesn't
joy.
matter. Yeah, and just bring that joy back. So if I feel that I need to pump up that joy, of course I go to the Lord. But then I put music on. Music really. So if I have, I mean, maybe it's not the conventional beauty tip, but for me, it's get yourself smiling, because it really just brings everything, even like blood circulating,
Yeah.
in your face and all that. So
And
yeah.
when you're exuding joy, I believe your body knows. Like it just,
No,
I think it's
yeah,
healing too to be joyful.
absolutely. So, do whatever you need to do to get there. And sometimes that's hard, but it makes a huge difference. I know for me, music makes it. And I
Music
just
is
have
power.
to, yeah, move and just smile. Even if I'm in just get in front of that mirror and smile.
It's good.
To try.
That is a beautiful body tip. Thank you.
No, thank you.
And thank you, Astrid, so much for being here today and sharing your lovely knowledge about Peru and about quinoa and all the foods. I so appreciate you being here today on Wellness Wednesday.
Oh, thank you, Krista, for giving me this chance, to bring a little bit of my background and beautiful country to you guys. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
God bless.